Nkrumah. Tanzania, it was Nyerere. In Zambia, it was Kaunda. In Malawi, it was Banda. In Mozambique, it was Machel. Angola, it was Neto. But this is now big because Traore has come at a time when there is what I call African Renaissance, and people want things that are pan-African to defy what happened in Berlin in 1884 and 1885. That is what is happening. He is that symbol.
That is Professor Patrice Lumumba, a Kenyan academic, and I think an eminent person who has been to South Africa quite a number of times, and it always is one of those pleasures being in an audience and listening to him speak. But I think it's become somewhat of a moral voice for the continent, and a leadership voice, or a leading voice on the continent as well, starting us off on the open line this morning, or on the talking point this morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. My name is Cathy Mohlahlana, and I'll be with you until midday as we lead conversations that move us. So we start off this morning then with a bit of breaking news coming out of the courts, and this is in relation to the urgent interdict that was brought by Thabo Bester and Nandipha Magudumane in as far as the Netflix documentary, which is set to air today, is concerned, Beauty and the Bester. There was an urgent court bid that was brought to try and prevent that docu from actually coming live. Now, the court delivered its judgment at 8:30, so it's literally just in the last half hour that the court has now dismissed this application for the interdict. The documentary also airs this morning, literally now, 9 o'clock is when we're expecting it to go live. I guess this court bid has also been somewhat of a marketing platform for the documentary itself, right? They say never let a good crisis go to waste, or there's no such thing as bad publicity, some people believe. So yeah, if some people are going to watch that docu, now I think more people are going to watch it simply because of the airtime that it has received as a result of this court bid. So they've been unable to prevent that from going ahead, and it looks like it's going to be a really fascinating documentary, 3-part series that takes a deep dive into the lives of Bester and Nandipha, and also I think probably gives viewers insights that they have yet to see. We know that Nandipha Magudumane's father has contributed to that docu, and it's one thing that she was also trying to interdict because she didn't want her dad speaking about it. We've seen the close relationship that they have when they're in the courts, but what is it that she would not have wanted people to hear? What is it that the dad could have possibly told researchers that were behind the documentary? I guess we'll have to watch and see, right? So that urgent application has been dismissed. It's the breaking news that is on the go right now. All right, we're going to start off the show with the open line. And as always, it's your national roundtable, so we'll be taking your calls on 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, you can send those voice notes and text messages to 0614 104 107. That's 0614 104 107. And on X, it's at SFM Radio, the hashtag there, SFM Talking Point. And I know that there'll be quite a number of things that you want to touch on this morning. I'm open to whichever direction you want to take the conversation in. Coming up in the second hour of the show, we're going to be looking at the concept of, is it Azania, Azania? Well, I guess it probably depends, number one, on which school you went to, but also politically how you might identify, because it's pronounced differently in all of the struggle songs that you'll hear from one political party to another. But we're going to be talking about the concept of Azania and what it means in a democratic dispensation. We're going to be doing this with a postdoctoral research fellow at the Institute for Pan-African Thought and Conversation at the University of Johannesburg. And I guess there've been those that propose that South Africa should be named Azania, right? You know that, Mark? Mark is our technical director for the week. You know that, Mark? There's been a proposal from some that this country should have been named Azania from the very beginning. But what is Azania? And what does it mean for us so many years into our democracy? That's part of what we'll be unpacking in the second hour of the show. And then for the final hour, we're still busy with the build-up to the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival that will kick off later on this month. So every Friday until then, we'll be featuring artists that are going to be on the Joy of Jazz stage. And this week will be absolutely no different. SAFM in particular is going to be sponsoring the Dipala stage for the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. So we're going to be featuring a lot of artists also that are going to be on that particular stage. And here's who you can expect today for the Friday Wind Down.
Hi, this is Cathy Mohlahlana. I'm looking forward to spending time with you this coming Friday the 12th on the Friday Wind Down with Cathy Mohlahlana, talking about all things Standard Bank Joy of Jazz.
Yes, we're going to be in conversation with Pinda. She'll be in studio with us. It'll be a journey of her music and her journey in the artistic field, and in particular bringing us all of the jazzy sounds that she does. All right, it is Friday. Your National Roundtable gets underway. I'm taking your calls on 086 000 2032 on the WhatsApp voice note line 0614-104-107. And yes, I'm already seeing voice notes about surnames and African identities. Mark, it's okay for you to be Mr. Mohlahlana. I give you permission. Guys, it's okay. It's now, you can now walk boldly as Mr. Mohlahlana and own it. You know, just own it, because the Constitutional Court has given it to you for free. For free. Embrace it. Walk in it. I'm saying this because I know the rest of the open line, we don't know where things are going to go. But you are free, Mark. You can be Mr. Mohlahlana, and you also have my agreement, you know. Embrace it. Walk into it. It is yours.
Vinokusen have a big appetite for victory, but the Eagles are in a good mood to fly high with 3 essential points. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch Bayer Leverkusen versus Eintracht Frankfurt this Friday, 12 September at 8:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4 and everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, this morning we're going to start things off in Acornhoek, Sydney. Good morning.
Yes, it's Cathy. Good morning. Thank you so much. My sister, we are listening in a school library. my sister, if no one ever uploaded Helen Zille for the truth she revealed about persecution and brutality that happened to Steve Biko, then I will be the first. If there are those who uploaded him, I join them. Knowing late 70s how rife apartheid was, how black African people were treated worse like animals. But as a young white woman, she stood up, there to tell the truth. She could have hidden everything, but she stood to tell the truth. Painful as it was, you can only imagine in the 70s how blacks were ill-treated in this country. But I'm not a GA member for that matter. I'm not. But she deserves to be thanked. I thank her myself. Today here in our school, morning devotion or morning gatherings or assembly, we have a library slot every day in the form of reading. But what we did today, I presented the story of Steve Biko. We even played the song of Peter Gabriel, Biko. As I was even more inspired by listening to Helen Zille talking with Brother Chulas earlier in the morning. As I even had there yesterday, the persecuted, pulling Steve Biko at the back of his bed. What a cruelty. These are things we came from. Therefore, Helen Zille, well done. It is recorded. This is what we've done for South Africans. The truth that you told us. Otherwise, we'll be living in life that just hunger strike, things like that. No, you hit the wall, and the truth came out. Because you did that as young white women then, when segregation was heavy and right, fighting black people, but it stood out. Then live with this. I'm saying thank you. If you are in the presence of my voice, Helen Zille.
Okay, Sydney. Yes, Sydney. Thank you for that. And I think part of what Sydney is invoking there is just the difficulty of being a reporter at the time, and she was a reporter for the Rand Daily Mail, and none of this work would have been easy for her as a young white woman to be reporting on this matter, and the fact that she still is committed very much to the truth coming out. You can hear it in what she has been saying. And it's something that she has long maintained, even at the time of the initial reporting, that the facts that she had, that she found out when investigating the story, simply did not point to somebody who had died as a result of a hunger strike. So, Sydney, I think that this is going to be a very, very important case. And it's great that all of these inquests that are being reopened into some of these deaths are helping to bring clarity, and they're helping to bring answers and understanding to the families that so desperately need it. Crispin, you also want to talk about the Biko inquest.
Yes, Cathy, and I happen to disagree with Helen Zille about so many things. But she, at the time, was a thoroughly professional, truth-seeking journalist, and she was the leading journalist who exposed this. I remember the Rand Daily Mail at the time showing a photograph of the security policeman, which somehow managed to communicate just how vile they were. But I knew Steve Biko, and I was very deeply affected by his death and the death of Rick Turner a few months later. Both of those were never fully resolved in terms of who had actually done what. And those truths must come out. But I just want to make one additional point. I mean, I think it's not enough just to remember Biko as a hero. We have to think, what would his legacy have been now? And I think we have not in any way fully dealt with his legacy in terms of the ways in which some people's lives are treated as less than significant. I mean, I just think about things like taxi violence. You know, I think about the way that Azamas have been treated. I mean, if these were white people, they would never have been treated in that way, with that kind of lack of commitment, the lack of urgency to protect people's lives.
Yeah, and I guess, do you think that there's a reawakening somewhat, a conscientization, Crispin, that is needed in our society today? That we've got to go back to remind ourselves about the essence of who we are and even where we come from as a people.
I think so. I mean, part of what has gone so wrong, of course, is that class has come to the fore, has, taken greater salience than race, but that's simply the ways in which certain people have readjusted to claim the privileges of class, and ignoring the full impact of what Biko said. Biko was a socialist, and it's that kind of thing gets slid over. And yeah, those kind of debates that he opened up, he and Rick Turner, for example, would debate long hours together, and they learned a great amount from each other. We need that kind of real probing debate, not this political grandstanding populism that we have at present.
Yeah, and I guess, when you live in a society that is so capitalistic and built around the structures that support capitalism, socialism also almost becomes somewhat of a swear word, doesn't it, Crispin?
Yeah.
That even those who speak about being socialists still are looking at socialism through a capitalist lens. Let's find a capitalism that can lean towards socialism, but shouldn't really be what it's supposed to be in its purest form.
Yeah, so we need a society which inevitably there should be a society in which there are markets. That's no problem whatsoever. But to take that as the only rationale that everything's driven by profit, that everything must be about money, well, we're seeing this being acted out in the deep, deep corruption and the casualness about this corruption everywhere in our society. That's what we've got to tackle.
Okay, Crispin, thanks for that input there. Mbongeni, you're in the Northwest. Good morning.
This is Cathy. How are you?
I'm well, Mbongeni.
Yeah. Earlier this year, you had people from, I think it was Western Cape University, I think UCT. You were talking about language and the writing of language in isiXhosa or isiZulu, of teaching. Sorry, not writing of language, but on teaching it in vernac. Now, why I'm raising this is because what is happening now with the judgment from yesterday is we're getting a lot of these aspects of culture, and I think they're confusing us worse, those people.
Why are you confused? What's confusing you, Mbongeni?
There was a guy this morning on Tulas's show saying that Lobola is not really African and what. I was like, now what is happening? And from yesterday, all these people, they're talking different things. And now I come to a conclusion to say, if our culture was written down and the Concord maybe would reference, go back and say, in South Africa, in all these, whether you're Ndebele, Sotho, Xhosa, we all subscribe to this, and it's written down. And I think my issue is that or maybe to take further the conversation that you had earlier this year about the vernac, and add on writing the culture to say this is how we do things as Africans in South Africa. I think this whole thing now, to me, the Concord decision was like, how is this going to happen? But there was a double barrel thing that came earlier in the democracy. That thing didn't really carry through. Most people are not using it. And I dismissed it and said, even this one, most people won't use a female surname.
Yeah, Marakere Mbongeni, it's because it's for those that use culture to oppress others. Just because now you don't want to be Mr. Mohlahlana, somebody else may want to be, and they want the freedom. They want to know that it exists as an option.
And then who's going to be Mrs.?
What do you mean? You see, you're looking at it through a very heteronormative perspective, right? And this is also breaking so much of how we've been socialized, because man represents this, woman represents that. So Mrs. will be there. I'm still Ms. Mohlahlana. You just get to be Mr. Mohlahlana now, if you want to be.
Okay. But I think, my point was that, okay, maybe let's talk about how about we write. I'm not sure if there is a book that is written on culture to say in the Ngunis or in the Sotho, I don't know how maybe the Sotho, Northern Sotho and Botswana fall under the Ngunis or not. But if we say, okay, this is the guideline on how we do things, then we can argue then what happened at the court to say, but this is against our culture.
Okay.
And when the court says, where is your culture? What
you present the books and what has been written.
Unlike now calling all these different people, they saying different things.
Mbongeni, we're going to have to leave it there. We'll continue shortly. It's time for the latest headlines.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the High Court in Pretoria has dismissed with costs the urgent application by convicted rapist and murderer Thabo Bester and Nandipama Gudumana to halt a Netflix documentary series, Beauty and the Bester. The first part of the documentary is expected to air today. Gauteng police have arrested an alleged serial rapist. The 41-year-old man was wanted in connection with a series of crimes including rape, kidnapping, robbery and assault committed in Diepkloof and Orlando, Soweto between 2008 and 2025. And a man has been shot and killed and 2 others injured in Tafelsig Mitchells Plain in Cape Town after they came under attack by a lone gunman last night. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
Cathy Mohlahlana on SAFM.
Good morning, Cathy. This is Anonymous in Bloemfontein. Listen, Cathy, this is quite interesting. We use our mother's surname, not that we were born in our mother's name, but my father took my mother's surname because my mother is a cousin of my grandmother, my father's mother. And our maternal uncles, even when they talk, they've got a tendency of actually even identifying us that we took their surname. Our surname is my mother's surname, one of my mother's surnames in her clan. Oh, if you come now, we've been there ourselves. My father took that surname long time ago. Bye-bye.
Morning, Cathy. I'm just amused by how mainly men are responding to this constitutional judgment. It's almost as if the judgment says men must take their wife's surname. It doesn't say men must. It says those who want to are not prohibited by law. The law allows them to take it. So it doesn't say men must take their spouses or their wives' surnames. It's only those who want to. But the response is almost as if the judgment is saying we must take our wives' surnames.
Good morning, Mamzo. You see, myself, I'm a strong leftist, and I also believe in the idea of decolonization. However, I think we should ask ourselves, will this create employment for us who've never been employed? Will it provide running water for us? I'm talking about the renaming of the country to Azine. You understand? I'm not against it, but I'm just saying, of what material benefit will it be to us? Because you see, at some point, black people don't mind using as a hospital, a functional and well-resourced hospital, even if it can be named after a Fairwood, so long as it's practical. So this ideological affair is practically for the political elites. I'm Mr. Mohlahlana in Bobela.
Mr. Mohlahlana in Pompela. Yeah, thanks for taking it with the spirit with which I said it. It's been a fascinating conversation, right? Yesterday, a friend of mine, after the ruling, sends me a message, and he was listening to the show. So he says, "Hey, I'm ready to be Mr. Mohlahlana." And my response was, "I'm not nearly rich nor famous enough for that to be of any benefit." But you can imagine how this has been an issue for those who want to preserve a family name, right? And I mean, they're really heavy names in society. So now people don't have to debate and argue. You can come into the family fold and be one of us and carry our surname. I mean, if the surname opens doors, if it is what it is, we can't deny some of these things. And yes, fame, money, wealth, it has to do with all of it. Or am I being too simplistic in my understanding of it? I don't know. You can call me out if I am. You can. John, you're in the Eastern Cape. Good morning. You want to talk about Biko?
Morning, Cathy. Cathy, yes. I didn't hear the interview with Helen Ziller, and I'm quite willing to give her credit for the very good work she did on the story. But what shouldn't be forgotten is that it was actually the Daily Dispatch with Donald Woods as the editor, and he had a reporter by the name of Gavin Robson, who was actually the closest to that story. And it was the Dispatch that really deserves the ultimate credit for breaking that story. And it led to Woods actually leaving the country, as people may recall. And and on the other score, I honestly, I'm in the legal business. I can't really see what is still going to be brought to light on the Biko story. I think we know the truth of the matter is that he was killed in detention, and how he was killed, and who was responsible. So I honestly, I don't really see the point. But anyway, it seems to be.
John, do you not think that it's about purposes of the record, just in what we have seen with the Ahmed Timol matter and others, that it does matter that what is recorded for the purposes of history is that this person did not commit suicide, but that this is in fact how an inquest in a court of law has found that they died?
Cathy, I think, regarding the Timol matter, I think it had already been established that he didn't commit suicide. Everybody knew that. I honestly don't see the point of reopening scabs. But
it's for so John, think about it.
We have plenty of other scabs, more recent ones.
Yeah, John, you talk about being, within the legal profession. So, if anything, somebody like you would have an appreciation for what is on the record, the official records, the generations of people that will come after us. When they look back to this history, the record will show them the full story of what happened with the lives of these activists. To simply say that it should remain as is, let's not reopen it because we all know what happened. Yes, we might talk about it, but until we go through the process where even the official records, the death certificate of this individual says something different to what it has this entire time, that matters, surely, John?
Well, Cathy, I respectfully disagree. I think we already know the truth. It has been dealt with in detail in inquests and all, and we do know the truth, and people were held responsible. So Respectfully, my view is
Yeah,
I
look,
personally don't see the point.
I don't think that that's true, because even in the Tamil matter, it was clear that there were individuals that were not held responsible. Some of them have since then died.
I wasn't really talking about the Timor matter. I was talking about the Bika matter. So, but we must agree to disagree.
No, that's fine. We can agree to disagree on this one, but yeah, it's a strong disagreement.
Thank you.
On my side. Yep. Okay. All right. Thanks for calling in, John. Well, we can't be afraid of helping society get the answers that it needs in the name of let's let dead dogs lie. Who knows? Who are the people that know these truths? Which record have these truths been put into? What do we know about the fact that everything that is on the record is all there ever was and all there ever has been? And I used the Tamil matter as an example because there have been new revelations that have come out in some of these instances. Think about the Craddock 4, right? And those families, they also want inquests open. Why? Because they're not convinced that everything that there is to know is in fact known. And we can't deny the burden that those families live with and that they wrestle with on a day-to-day basis. It's not just about broader society. No, these people come from somewhere. They have people who have held them close, who sit with the weight of the burden. So as society, yes, we can venture opinions, but we don't feel the hurt the way that the family members, the children, and all other associated people that are close in the way that they feel it. Let me go to Xolani, also in the Eastern Cape. Good morning, Xolani.
Hi, Cathy. I'm not sure whether I should call myself Uncle Mohlahlana or whatever.
No, it would be Mr. Mohlahlana. Thank you, Xolani.
Mr. is still another topic for another day, Mr. and Mrs. now based on what just happened. Let's leave it for that day. Cathy, the purpose of the call is the observation that is becoming more what I would call an epidemic now about the issue of children not going to school. And I wish when the folks that talk about dialogues, especially two critical departments, the Department of Basic Education and the Department of Traditional Affairs, on their responsibility in enforcing children to go to school. If you look at, I'm focusing more on where I'm always at, the Eastern Cape, that is the former Transkei region, and all the way that, especially in the Eastern Cape. There's too many children. When I say children, any child from that's supposed to be at school up to the ages of 18. There's just so many of them that are not in school, that are wandering around in the locations, in the villages, on these places that are always passed through. And it's a worrisome thing when you have so many of these kids dropping out of school. Now, grade 9 has become the base where many of these children are dropping out of school. And the question I'm asking myself, traditional leaders in the locations where they have total control, why is this allowed? Department of Basic Education, what is their relationship with the people who are living in the communities where this is becoming an increase?
Yeah.
How can we work together to enforce education to the children?
You know, Xolani, I think one of the saddest things that has come out of grade 9 being an exit point for learners who want to follow alternative pathways, i.e., those who want to go into the TVET learning space, want to go to colleges and do more artisanal training. It's unfortunate that the policy has not been implemented along the spirit with which it was intended, because the aim was never just so that these young people leave grade 9 and that then becomes the end of their schooling career. It was always that there was going to be a pathway that they would follow that takes them directly into some form of skills and training that was not along the mainstream sort of schooling curriculum.
I think, Cathy, we need to look at it from around the issue of enforcement. Why are we not enforcing children? If we are still calling them children, it means we as parents are responsible on what they must do. Why are we not enforcing children to be in school during school hours? Why are we allowing this to happen in our communities? Hence, I mentioned these two departments. Traditional affairs, they have custodianship in their locations and where they are. And if there are certain principles and rules that are supposed to be in place, that if you are at this age level, you're supposed to be doing A, B, C, D, and if you are not, there should be consequences that are done in that way. If we don't do it, Kathy, here is the thing. It is easy to manipulate a person who doesn't know and desperate for anything. This is what is happening in South Africa at the moment. Those who do not know are dependent on those who claim to be knowing, because those who do not know just want to survive.
Oh, Xolani, it's such an important point that you've raised today. Thanks for that, out in the Eastern Cape. And wasn't there a time where if it was school hours, it was almost like an anomaly to see children or young people in the street because you were expected to be in school? And your neighbor, if you were bunking class or if you were trying to do something shady, they would be the one to take you back to school or call your parents and say, I see Mang Mang is here walking up and down the street. And so Xolani is right, that it's one of those where in order to fully solve it, all of us, we need to wear that burden and we need to get involved. And the social workers too, right? Because this is also part of where they come in from a society point of view. If there are all of these kids in the street, the social workers should be saying, but who are your parents? Why are you not in school? So a really, really important issue there. Dumisani, you in Germiston, good morning.
No, I want to talk about the very same thing, but in a different way. That will also help your concern about the people or the children who are roaming the street in school hours. I'm saying that we should appreciate Sparks for reversing the intention to list the students who are owing the university and college to the credit bureau. I'm saying it's a good intention, but we must go further and say and fight for a total free education. What I mean is that from grade 0 to university, it must be free education, and only when the student is going for a master's is when he or she must pay. And then the people are asking it, what will the public or the government gain from the people, from these students? I mean, because the way you're using the public money to study. I'm saying that after finishing your studies, it must be compulsory to work for the state for a year before you go for your intended course, for your intended job that you studied at university. It must be compulsory to work for the state for a year, and then this will also help the government, because government keep on saying that it's short of staff. There's no doctors, there's no teachers, there's no social workers, whatever, and we are short of skills. And then when they are there working for the state, these students will fill that gap. I mean, and
look,
also,
go ahead, Dumisani.
Listen, we got countries, even in Africa, that have a free education, totally free education. We got Libya, we got Botswana, we got Burkina Faso, right? So South Africa it's more richer sometimes than those countries. But why are we failing our students? Why are we failing our country?
Yeah, look, Dumisani, I'm not one of those that believes that we must take away all responsibility from people in society in as far as the responsibility of being able to build themselves up and build their own lives up. So by all means, yes, let's make education accessible. So a young, talented person who needs to go to access higher education should have the opportunity to do that. But I don't think that there must be a wholesale, you go to university for free. I do think that when you are done and you start working, the system has to find a way of being able to continuously do that for coming generations. It's unsustainable to believe that. Sorry?
But if you absorb the students to work for you, for me and you, for the state, and then for a year, and then if need be, they will apply again to work for the state for permanently. But for them to pay back our tax, they must work. They must be compelled to work for the state.
Yeah, and I mean that's what a lot of bursary candidates also do in the private sector. If somebody gives you a bursary, yes, you may not be paying that back in real time, but you have to work for them for a certain number of years so that they are able to derive the full value of it, and you probably get paid less than what you would have because the company is also thinking about how do they make it sustainable. So let's think about sustainable interventions and not just, here, free, because that is probably, that kind of thinking is what has led to unmet promises in our country. Let's take a quick break. I'm back with more of your calls.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
SAFM Music. Good times, good memories.
Somebody
old school sounding so good. SAFM Music with you wherever you go. Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
All right, we continue with the conversation on the open line. It is your national roundtable. Kazozo, you are in Newcastle. Good morning, Kazozo.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Kunjani?
Ngiyaphila. Wena unjani, Mr. Kazozo?
Kiteng. Ngithwele Auskit. Auskit, I think this is my second time calling, but today it's a different topic. As I once said to you that I'm an artist living with a disability of blindness. So,
yes, Kazozo, and I remember we still owe you a date on the Friday wind down.
Yes.
After we're done with our Joy of Jazz road trip.
And I did send my profile and everything, but today I want to talk about. There is a music festival which happens every year in Playhouse. So this music festival is a festival designed for artists with disability. So we call this festival Weekend Arts Festival. It's normally broadcast on some TV stations and all of that. So this year we are very saddened as artists living with disability. The fact that the organizers of this event told us that they want this year, this our festival won't happen or won't take place because they weren't able to gather funding from the Department of National Sports, Arts and Culture. So we are very concerned as artists with disability because if this event doesn't happen, it means that we won't have Christmas. We won't have a good Christmas as artists because this is the festival that we normally rely on, because even on all these summer activations that happen, or on all of this summer festival that takes place in South Africa during the festive season, we are not being booked. Even though some of us our music is being playlisted on big radio stations, and we also have good following on social media, but we are still not recognized by by the other events or by other event organizers. So now we are very saddened. We are just asking is it possible that SAFM can do an inquiry from the National Department of Sports and Arts and Culture regarding the Weekend Arts Festival? Why they were not able to fund this festival this year, because this is the festival that we are normally relying on.
Yeah.
So even, yeah, man, we are very saddened.
And Kazozo, the point that you're making around the fact that this is one of very few platforms that are available for musicians with disabilities is also key. All right.
Yes.
Okay, Kazozo.
Yeah, please, ma'am, please, just do a good inquiry, because we want to hear the answers from them.
Okay.
If you can get one of the people, especially those who are responsible of evaluating the application for annual events.
Okay, we'll do that, Kazozo.
Please, ma'am, we really want this answer, because you see, during December there's this festival which they call Durban Fest, whatever. Kuzoba buhlungu mawuthola ukuthi lawo ma-festival they will take place kuthina, and then we are being left out. We are being left out because we know that these art festivals asibhukwa thina abantu abaphila nokukhubazeka.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, Kazozo, I've heard you loud and clear. We'll certainly see what we can do to follow up on that issue. In fact, you're reminding me, I was supposed to read out this response yesterday. We received a call from Glenn in Protea Glen around broken stamps at the SAPS in the Protea Glen area. We did reach out to the police to find out why it is that there were no working stamps, so people were unable to get their documents certified. This is the response that we received from the SAPS. And the district management said that it noted complaints of people being turned away at SAPS Protea because there's no stamp. Then they say it should be noted that every police station is given these tools of trade, which includes stamps and inks, so they should have them, and it is the duty of management to make sure that it is there and in good working condition. They then say an internal disciplinary investigation is going to be instituted at a district level against those responsible for ensuring that there is sufficient stationery at the police station. And the district management then also called on people who've been sent back without assistance to come forward and register formal complaints against the police. Alternatively, those complaints could be sent to the provincial inspectorate component, and they're the ones that are responsible for investigating the police. So what we'll do is that we'll put the different details that they have given us, we'll put those on our social media pages so that you are able to follow up and to officially lay those complaints. But I think by virtue of us calling and talking about the fact that there are complaints, surely that registers some kind of complaint. What the statement doesn't say is when the stamps are going to be available again at the police station. That is a glaring issue. We don't know when they are going to be working stamps again in Protea Glen. And we have not received an answer or a direct answer to that very specific question. But this is the response that we have to go with for now. All right, that brings us to the end of the open line for today. It's 10 o'clock, time for your latest news update.
In our top stories, Thabo Bester loses court bid to block Netflix documentary and alleged serial rapist arrested. Good morning. Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipa Magudumana have lost their bid to block the airing of a Netflix documentary, Beauty and the Bester. The couple, accused of a brazen escape at Mangaung prison in the Free State, launched an urgent application yesterday at the High Court in Pretoria against the streaming service company. They argued defamation and the documentary will infringe on their right to a fair trial to resume in November. However, in delivering judgment, Judge Sulet Patrol said there was no urgency and dismissed both applications with cost.
The court went as far as to say that prior restraint can only be granted if the prejudice is demonstrable and substantial. It is a real risk that it will occur. Speculation, as argued in this court, is not sufficient. I am therefore satisfied that this application too did not comply with Rule 612 in that it did not address substantial redress, and in fact there is substantial redress in due course. For that reason, this matter is also struck from the roll and the applicant is to carry the cost.
Gauteng police have arrested and alleged serial rapist. The 41-year-old man was wanted in connection with a series of crimes including rape, kidnapping, robbery and assault committed in Diepkloof and Orlando in Soweto between 2008 and this year. The suspect is expected to appear before the Protea Magistrates Court next week. Horisani Sitole reports.
Between 2008 and 2025, 45 cases were reported to the police, with 38 open in Diepkloof and 5 in Orlando, while 2 more cases were reported in the northwest. The victims are female, aged between 14 and 55, who were targeted by an unknown man who used a firearm and a knife, often wearing a balaclava and a mask to conceal his identity. Investigations led to the arrest of the suspect and will appear in court on Monday.
The EFF says the government's decision to withdraw the draft credit regulations on student debt listing with credit bureaus was prompted by strong opposition from the party. Yesterday, Trade Minister Pakstau announced the withdrawal following an overwhelming public response of over 20,000 submissions opposed to the plan. The proposed regulations, published in a government gazette last month, would have permitted educational institutions to submit students' debt information to credit bureaus, resulting in the possible blacklisting of students. EFF MP Sihle Lonzi.
Instead of coming up with progressive policies to say how do we grow our economy, how do we create jobs for young people, we opt to say let us blacklist students, majority of whom are already unemployed, majority of whom already don't have their degrees and certificates because they owe institutions of higher learning money. So of course we pushed back against it, and I think the ministry could see that we are beginning to rally society against this regressive proposal, and I think it's a victory for all youth and students in South Africa.
A man has been shot and killed and 2 others injured in Tafelsig, Mitchells Plain in Cape Town after they came under attack by a lone gunman last night. Police spokesperson Wesley Twigg says the 3 victims were sitting on the side of the road when the incident happened. He says the motive for the attack is still unknown.
According to reports, the victims were sitting on an electricity box when the suspect approached them and opened fire before fleeing the scene. The 23-year-old victim was declared deceased on the scene by medical personnel, while the other victims were taken to a medical facility for treatment. The motive for the attack forms part of the police investigation. Metropolitan detectives are investigating murder and attempted murder cases.
And finally, legendary Springbok flank and renowned winemaker Jan Boelan Coetzee has died after battling ill health for some time. He was 80 years old. Coetzee made 6 appearances for the Springboks between 1974 and 1976 and also represented Western Province in 127 matches between 1967 and 1979. He later made his name as a farmer and winemaker. His family will announce details of his funeral service at a later stage. Recapping the top story, Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipama Gudumana have lost their bid to block the airing of a Netflix documentary, Beauty and the Bester. The couple launched an urgent application yesterday at the High Court in Pretoria against the streaming service company. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
This week on FC Meets, sports brand specialist and creative director Chama Malulega talks to us about the rising Yeleti sports brand. From school sport partnerships to athlete collaborations, join us to find out more. Tune into SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC Plus on Saturday 13 September at 6 p.m. FC Meets, football made for community by community. Retain Chai Game. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
University of Fort Hare ladies want to ensure they play attractive football for 90 minutes to stop Banyana style, but the superpower of women's football in Mzansi are not shaken. This is the Hollywood Best Super League. Catch University of Fort Hare ladies versus Mamelodi Sundowns the Sunday 14 September at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The legendary Mamle Tambulu will be on Seasons this Sunday, the 14th of September 2025, between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. Tune in as Khomotso KG Mweketi takes us on a journey filled with special moments of nostalgia, reflection, and music. Only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
It's 10 after, not 10, it's actually 8 after 10 o'clock. Welcome to the second hour of the show. Coming up in this hour, we're going back to Azania and we're looking at what the meaning of Azania is in a democratic dispensation. We'll be doing that shortly with our guest, Dr. Mbuyisi Ngibisa. Before we do that, lots of different voice notes on various issues this morning, so we'll take a couple of those and then get into the conversation for this hour.
Good morning, Cathy and the SAFM listeners. This is Alfred Gama at Bizana in the Eastern Cape Province. Cathy, if I change my surname to my wife's surname, what I'm doing, Cathy, it would mean I'm abandoning my ancestors and praise someone's ancestors. No, Kathy, I cannot do that. I cannot change my surname to my wife's surname. I cannot do that, Kathy. Even if that constitutional court can say, I cannot do that, Kathy. I cannot do that nonsense. Thank you, Kathy, and the SAFM listener.
This morning on Tulas's show, I sent a voice note which was not played. I'm sending it once more to your show, Kathy, because I'm questioning, as the one listener was also questioning, that the views of Helen Zille. Suddenly, she is a hero when it comes to expressing her views on the death Ubaba Steve Biko, Uchop. What I want to know is yesterday on Ashraf's show, you had Helen. You are having Helen this morning. Is she the only voice? Are you saying that we've got no other people, intellectuals who can speak on the matter of Biko?
Hello, Kathy. Good morning. Assuming your wife's name is good for urban areas and other races, not here in the rural area. In the rural area, we are a conservative society. When you take a wife, you introduce your wife into your cultural practices, you have to perform rituals. We lobola our wives. No, Kathy, not here. Not here in the rural areas. No. Okwali, Kukum.
Good morning, Cathy. This is Tembu from Quebec. So I want to talk about our bloated executive. Why do we have 43 deputy ministers? I mean, what is the value add? What do these people do? The very same government is doing massive cuts to health, education, under the pretext that there's no money. But there's money to pay 43 deputy ministers. And whatever happened to the conversation around having two capitals? It's expensive. Why do we keep doing it? Why don't we have just one capital to save money? And we're told this government doesn't have money. Tembu, Quebec.
Good morning, Kathy. I'm Svido in Watema. People have every right to be unhappy with the ruling by the Constitutional Court yesterday, but Professor Musatulu made a very compelling argument yesterday. I'm just gonna paraphrase him. He said, surnames were not part of African identity culturally anyway before, but they came with colonization. Therefore, people shouldn't register their dissatisfaction. It's me saying that now. They shouldn't register their dissatisfaction by linking it to the violation of African culture. No, because surnames were not part of African identity before. Anyway, thank you.
Hashtag SFM Talking Point.
All right, we continue our conversation then this morning. We're looking at Azania, and we're joined by Dr. Mbuyisi Mgibisa, who is a postdoctoral research fellow at the Institute for Pan-African Thought and Conversation at the University of Johannesburg. He's going to be sharing some of his own thoughts around Azania, I guess more than just the name, substance over form is probably part of where the conversation will also go. And he's sitting across from me in studio. Dr. Mgibisa, good morning to you. Thank you for your time this morning. So, it's the name Azania is one that I think has been part of our discourse post-democracy and even pre-democracy, right? Today, when the name Azania is brought up, it's in some of the struggle songs that we'll hear different political parties singing, but it also comes up in the conversation around the renaming of this country. Those who believe that South Africa is not an actual name, Azania is one of the more popular names that comes up as a suggestion for the direction we should be going into. But what is Azania?
Thanks so very much, Katie. Firstly, I listened to the debate around Azania. People tend to focus, as you say, on the etymology of the term. And sometimes there'll be debates around the geography, where is what's located within the continent. Sometimes we forget that this is a Pan-Africanist ideal. Something that is ideal is not tangible. So Azania can mean different things to many different people, for instance. To me, it means reimagining a country that came from colonialism, from apartheid. I knew it leads us to ask different questions what it means, rather than get stuck into the debates on whether to name change the country or not. For instance, people got stuck in debates like, was South Africa a colonial name or not? Is it a historical name or not? But the reality of the matter is that we developed our own names during the post-1994 era. Like Mzansi, there are many other examples, like the Rainbow Nation. And no people questioned where do those kind of names came from. So it puzzles me why we got stuck into the debate about the names instead of asking what it means.
Let's then get into the meaning of it from your point of view. What does Azania mean?
Simply from me, it means that because this came from the era of struggle, it symbolizes our humanity as Black Africans, to say we are the people of the continent that come from the womb. Then after you have come from the womb, you have to redefine yourself through the life journey. So that's what it means to me. It means that reclaiming a name and turning it around and making sense to the current moment that I live in.
So if we were to then contextualize Azania to speak to where South Africa is right now, where would you begin with that kind of conversation?
I will begin it in 1994, which I call it an epoch. Each country goes through epochal stages in its history, and there have been many in this country, and 1994 was one of them. So there are two choices that happens when you are faced with a moment. One is either you grab it and define it, what it means. The other choice is that you celebrate the moment. And what we did, unfortunately, in this country is that we celebrated the 1994 moment and partied so hard, got too drunk. And I say that today we're suffering from that democratic hangover. We didn't continue after celebration and ask, what does this new South Africa mean? What does it mean to bring what Steve Biko fought of bringing a more human face to this country? So we chose that latter part of the choice.
How would we have done things differently? So if it was not merely about the celebration, but also about saying that there is a reality of particular groups in this country that have been marginalized, and those are the people that, whatever it is we are doing, we need to be responding to the needs that they have, because they have been the ones brutalized by the system. How would we have done things differently? What did we need to change?
We will have to go back to what Steve Biko says in his seminal work, I Write What I Like. In that book, he brings the concept of the envisaged self or the envisioned self. We'll have started envisioning about this country. What does it mean? What is this vision? What brings us together? What are our dreams? What are the new volumes that we need to cultivate? And this is linked to what Frans Fanon, by the way, says in his work, The Wretched of the Earth, where he talks about imagining and creating new forms of state, new forms of institutions, new forms of societies. We should have started there and then have a conversation on how do we bring those new institutions, new forms of societies, new forms of nation states alive in a new reimaginative way.
We have many new institutions that have been established post-democracy. Do you think that they are not an adequate response to the idea, at least as you framed it, through the lens of Steve Biko, through the lens of Frans Fanon?
I do think that most of the institutions are located in what I call the modern neoliberal university. They're not located outside the university. And most of the institutions are inspired by the nature of our democracy, which is a constitutional democracy. That's why we talk of the Chapter 9 institutions. I don't think Steve Biko and Fanon were talking about those kind of institutions. They were talking about social institutions that will bring us together as a society, that will solve society problems together with the people. What happens currently now, that those institutions that are located inside the university, They do a researching for, not a researching with. They design solution for the people, not with the people. That's where the problem lies. That the institution must be created, they must be social in nature, they must be embedded within the communities. Because the communities, they're not facing the problems. They've got solution to this problem that they're facing. So that's where the problem to me lies.
We're going to continue the conversation with Dr. Mgibisa, and I'm also going to be asking him to expand on his ideas around Azania being more of a philosophical tradition, especially in as far as it relates to black political thought. We'll continue this conversation shortly.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The past never stays buried. Secrets resurface and the truth demands to be found. This season, every clue matters. Every silence hides a story, and every revelation could shatter lives forever. Unforgotten Season 4, a gripping drama where justice is never simple and the past is never truly gone. Starts 8th September at 9 p.m. Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays only on S3. Open up.
Be in it to win it by playing Powerball and Powerball Plus for a life-changing 124 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Friday. That's right. Play Powerball for an estimated 64 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 60 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
All right, we continue the conversation on the talking point, and we are unpacking the concept or the idea of Azania, particularly as a philosophical approach, and not just a beautiful name, because a beautiful name it is. But what would the principles of Azania and what do they mean for South Africa today? And are there ways in which we can be exploring this to help feed our nation and to also respond to some of the challenges that we have in our country today? So, Dr. Mgibisa, what is the philosophy around Azania?
When I started this show and I was using the greeting Sawubona, Sawubona is not just a mere salutation. It is more than that. It means I see you in the context of black invisibility, which is occasioned by supremacist structures of whiteness. So this is one of the concepts that is within the tradition of Azania. So what it means philosophically, it means that in the Sankofa style, we must go back and excavate concepts that are indigenous to the African continent, theories that are indigenous to the African continent, philosophies that are indigenous to the African continent, and deploy those theories to solve our complex problems that we find ourselves in this country. It is a philosophy, we have framed it correctly, it is a philosophy that is broadly within the black radical thought. It means that we have a right to be angry in this country because there are current forms of dehumanization, there are current forms of oppression, there are current forms of exploitation. That is why we see a number of protests throughout the country happening every day. People have got a right to be angry. It's what people have theorized as black rage. So we've got a right to rage. I think Steve Biko was an epitome of black rage, including Frantz Fanon, because I like to pair those two, Biko and Fanon, because there's a lot of similarities that you can draw between Biko and Fanon. One of them is that they both died at the year 30s. They were both in the medical field. They were both epitomes of black rage. They produced two beautiful seminal works at the year 30s. So there's a lot that you can infuse into the philosophy of Azania to solve the complexity that we find ourselves by drawing on these African indigenous concepts that are so useful in rebuilding our country.
I'm always fascinated by, the thought that says we are leaving part of ourselves behind as Africans, and it can be expressed in multiple ways. It depends on what you want to talk about. You can talk about how people speak, what language people speak, how people dress, etc., etc. And yet, if we look at where we are today, it is black people that are running the state. It is black people that are making decisions about how to live their lives. And I never want to take away people's agency, right? Because these are decisions that that people are making, whether fully aware or not so, maybe it's a debate. But the point is that they're using their agency to make these decisions. At what point do we read what we see as not being rooted in true Africanism?
I like the point that you are raising, because there's a tendency of getting stuck in ideological dogmas. To go to the party doesn't mean that you are going there to lock yourself in that mode. It means that you don't forget the gifts that you are left with by those that preceded us. But also because we live in new times, it means that there's a duty in this current generation to come up with new concepts that speak to their realities. It means that defining what it means to be an African anew and what makes sense to you as an African. And embodying also other thoughts that may not be necessarily indigenous to the African continent. Because human beings are what is called relations, are relationship human beings. That through the relations that we make with other people, we create new norms, new values, new kinds of people, new conversation. So it means not being stuck in that mode, but rising and defining your own moment.
But the suggestion is one that says whatever you develop, right, in this current dispensation, there's a view that it's often divorced from African ideals, from true African culture, that it embodies too much of a Western framework. And so if, again, we go back to Azania and how the philosophy around Azania can help us in navigating our present challenges, where do we marry the two? And in what ways do we bring that past into our present?
There are many ways. I'll make an example of in a scholarly environment where I find myself in. You find that people tend to use methods or methodologies that don't speak to our realities. For instance, we had so many methodologies that we can employ in our studies, like storytelling, like imbizo, as methods of sitting around the fire, sharing knowledge in that way. So there are so many ways we can deploy those past concepts that are indigenous to us in the current moment. I'm just making one as an example. It's that we get carried away with the Euro modern ways of living and thinking and ways of doing things. And we forget that we have the arsenal of materials, of concepts, of knowledges that we can deploy in the current moment.
We're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Mbuyisi Mgibisa. He's a postdoctoral fellow, research fellow at the University for Pan-African Thought and Conversation at the University of Johannesburg. So he's unpacking the thoughts around Azania, the philosophy. What does Azania mean 35 years into our democracy? And so far, beyond the name, it's about ways of being. What are those ways of being that we identify with ourselves that we need to be bringing more into the way we do things today? But also not lost on me is an observation that says in much of the structures that we have built post-democracy, we've left society out. So people don't feel that they are part of what is happening. I guess that's why it's easy for people to burn down a school, to burn down a library, because they're not coming on the journey of these processes, of the decision making, of the thinking that lies behind it. So you're expecting people to buy into an already made product that sometimes might not resonate with them. It belongs to you. So that's why if I'm angry with the government, I can burn down their school because it's not mine. It belongs to the government. And I wonder in what ways then some of that reshaping and reframing can help us in solving the problems that we have, and in creating a true sense of ownership and sharing in this democracy collectively. It's 10:30. We're going to take the latest news headlines. I'm back with more of this conversation and your contributions.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines on SAFM, I am Ondelambana, and a very good morning. Both Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipama Gudumana have lost their bid to block the airing of Netflix documentary Beauty and the Bester. The couple, accused of a brazen escape at Mangaung prison in the Free State, launched an urgent application yesterday at the High Court in Pretoria against the streaming service company. The Public Servants Association will today embark on industrial action over a long-running dispute with the Department of Military Veterans, and legendary Springbok flank and renowned winemaker Jan Boland Coetzee has passed away after battling ill health for quite some time. He was 80 years old. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand currently trading at 17 rand 36 to the dollar, 23 rand 54 to the pound, and 20 rand 38 to the euro. Markets in Asia were mainly in the green at the closing bell. The JSE positive in mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe are mainly higher at this hour. Gold is trading at $3,648. Platinum $1,388 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $65.91 a barrel.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
We continue the conversation on the Talking Point this morning. Dr. Mbuyisi Mgibisa is our guest. Dr. Mgibisa, just on this point around being able to bring people in so that societies don't feel like they are existing outside of society. And it goes back to the sentiment that many South Africans will often share about how they don't feel like this country belongs to them. They feel a sense of displacement and a sense of dislocation, despite the fact that they are born in South Africa, they carry South African identification.
I think it goes back to the point I raised about recreating our own version of what is the nation state. Because the question that emanates from the people generally is that whose state it is. There are many examples of the discourse that is currently happening. People questioning whose state is it, which institution it is. For instance, recently I've heard a lot of criticism directed towards the South African Human Rights Commission, with the perception that it protects more people who come from outside and disregard the plight of South Africans. And I think that those kind of complaints are legitimate because they emanate from that question, whose state it is, who does it protect, and so on.
But what do we need to do in order to make sure that we fix it so that everybody who is in South Africa can feel that they belong to South Africa, especially South Africans?
I think we have to do away with a cosmetic way of making people feel part of the state, like things like public participation. Because those kind of things of bringing people into halls and making feel they are part of the process are not helping out. Because people already come up with their own solutions to throw down under people's throat. So we have to really be genuine about our engagement with people, other than creating processes that make and camouflage the real issue. Because there's a distance between the government officials, the government, local government officials, the people who are elected public representatives, and the people. And that distance also is created by our electoral system that we have chosen of the party system, whereby you don't have people accounting directly to the communities. We have people that are accounting directly to their own parties. Once you still have those kind of structures existing, you still have that difference, that distance that is between the government and also and the people. And also to answer directly your question about how do people feel that they are part of South Africa, I think we have to be intentional. We have to say there are jobs that are preserved for the locals. You have to be intentional of privileging South Africa also in universities. There's a huge cry at the moment of universities that discard us as black scholars who are emerging in the field, but employing those that may look like us but are outside of the continent. So you will never have that feeling of belonging if you feel excluded from the place that you were born, from the place on which you are indigenous to. I mean, without talking too much about the nationhood. Nationhood is important in so far as people can hold into the idea of the nation. And it is different from statehood or republicanism, the model that we are using at the moment. People have got to feel that they belong to this country. It means that they need to feel that they are the first in the queue, not the last in the queue.
I'm thinking about the example that you used around some of these processes, legitimate government processes that are there to bring in public participation, as you're saying, the hearings, etc., etc. So if one were to say, okay, in its current form, it doesn't work, and provide reasons for why it doesn't work, what does the alternative look like? And I think I ask that because obviously government has its own program to run. There has to be a center, right? And in this example, the government would be the center, and it deploys all of these different projects. There's already a thinking that people have voted for, that we want the thinking in this direction by virtue of whichever party has won the elections. And so whatever program is being brought before people would be very much in line with the majority that won the day or the coalition that managed to put together a government, right? But to rethink how that should happen in a way that brings society along. What are the examples that we can draw from? And are they historical lessons? What else could the system look like to be all-encompassing and yet still be able to run and function as a way of government needing to get things done?
Yes, there are historical examples. The clearest one is the way how the Freedom Charter came about. We had people putting ideas in what was called suggestion boxes that were distributed throughout the country, throwing in what they feel should be encompassed in that document called the Freedom Charter. Then they collated all those ideas and formulated what is called now the Freedom Charter. So the process was ground up. I mean, there's no reason why when a municipality is drafting its integrated development plan, IDP, there's no reason why you can't put suggestion boxes in community halls that are already built, that are there, so that people can throw ideas there before they draft the IDP document. What currently happens is that they sit in the boardroom, hire consultants, go into a resort, spend a lot of money that the municipality doesn't have, produce the document, and do what they call the road shows, and go to these villages trying to sell what they've already decided. I mean, these models, they exist, so that there's no political will to implement them.
But are those people that have been elected into office, the ones that are hiring the consultants to do the work, are those people not custodians of these communities? Have they not been voted into those positions? Have they not been given the mandate to run things as they are?
I think that's a mistake that we make about leadership. We think that leadership is always to be in the front. And we also make another mistake of thinking that to be a follower is to have a less feature than a leader. And that is why they always get into trouble to community that is raging, because they think that everything that they are doing is correct. I think the example that I was making about the Freedom Shard is that the leaders, they stepped back and allowed people to come up. And then it didn't deduce anything from them being leaders. But we live in a reality whereby leaders equate leadership with position. Because I am a councillor, because I'm the mayor, and therefore I can't be led by another person. I can't be a follower of a process, not even a follower of a people. I can't be a following the process from behind.
I've got a message here from one of our listeners in Protea Glen, Brian Mabaye, who says, morning, Cathy and your guest. It's already too late to be in Azania. Through colonization, we have lost 3 important fundamentals of being African. We lost the land, we lost the languages through English, and we lost our identity because we're now westernized. Let's look at Japan and China. Through modernization, they haven't lost their languages and identity and philosophy. It'll take a civil war to change South Africa, not debate. What do you make of what Brian is saying?
Yeah, Brian is correct in terms of... I want to go back also to Biko. Biko was not just a political activist. He was also a theorist. So he could combine theorizing with action. So I agree with that point that it will take more than talking around these talk shows and so on. But also, we must also understand that we live in different times. We're not living in the past times. So the languages, they evolve. The cultures, they evolve. The ways of living, they evolve. So, and our current reality is that if you don't embrace, for instance, things like technology, things like 4IR, we got lost because the time is so accelerated. The world is shrinking. The ideas of borders, physical borders, are irrelevant because people can use modes of communication quicker than traveling abroad. So I'm saying we have to live in the past and also in the moment and try to find synergy between the two.
I'm thinking about the examples that he's used, both Japan and China. These are countries that have such clear identities, right? And that have been able to preserve that identity and even export it to the rest of the world. You have Chinese restaurants in this country. They're very Chinese. You don't have confusion. Japanese restaurants, they're very Japanese. There's no confusion around what it is that you're walking into. And I wonder what kind of decisions that they have made that has enabled this. People will joke about how you will get a China mall in South Africa, different parts of this country. Almost every area, there's a China mall that you can go to. But if you go to China, do you get a South African mall where you know you're going to find Sizulu clothes, Izindebele clothes, Xhosa clothes, Sepedi? We don't have that, but to me it says that there's something about how these countries have preserved and intentionally exported their identity to the rest of the world, that is so clear and that there's no confusion about it.
I think those countries have clearly defined who they are, what they stand for, and what it means to be a Chinese. I don't think we have done that as South Africa. I don't think we have sat down and say, what does it mean to be South Africa? How does it mean what is South Africanness? What does it mean to preserve our languages and our cultures? I mean, there's a market commodification of our cultures. You can go here in Johannesburg along these shops whereby the attire is sold by people who don't come here. The attire that I wear also today. So there's a market conversion of our cultures and our languages. So I think it goes back to the issue that once we don't envision the country first, as Bego said about envisioning, you end up going too many directions. You don't know what actually are you aiming for. I'm not saying that by imperializing their cultures, the Chinese and Japanese are correct. We have allowed them to do that. But ourselves are not engaged in that kind of, I must say, in that kind of way of preserving our identity in that way.
But we talk about it all the time. We talk about what it means to be South African all the time. We've been talking about it for years and years and years and years. What is it that why can't we seem to agree on what it means to be South African? What is the stumbling block around this unity that we have? I mean, the concept of a rainbow nation seemed to get us going for some time, and then things just became awkward because people are like, no, we're not a rainbow. They're no purple human beings, so we can't be a rainbow. And since then, it's just sort of, it's hanging somewhere in the balance. But the conversation has been an ongoing one. There just doesn't seem to be agreement, at least from a societal point of view. Government has tried to say that there's agreement with how it positions us from a national point of view, but we see people reject that on an ongoing basis.
I think we forget where we come from. For instance, this society was built through violence and also through, that produced racial hatred, that in turn also produced hatred towards ethnic each other. So it's very difficult to find a common ground in a society that was built in that way. And what is fundamentally lacking is love, not intimate love. It's radical love that also appreciates the difference. So that's why we get stuck. We get stuck in these racial undertones, racial labeling. Then we cannot move forward if we get stuck in that mind. That's why Steve Biko had an expansive definition of black consciousness that included the colors, the Indians, the black Africans. Because he understood that if you get stuck that I'm a black African, then black consciousness can only mean something to you. The country will never move forward. I think to me that's a fundamental problem. That without loving the difference as a country, we cannot find each other. Yeah.
And without love, as you put it, love for oneself, love for one's neighbor, just from a level of humanity. Yeah. And love isn't a word that we hear spoken about too often these days. And it has disappeared from our language, from our discourse.
I think also it's terrible that it's happening in that way, because this love that we're talking about is not even decolonial love, it's radical love. It's love that does not think about you, the present generation. It's love that leads you to make decisions that affects generation to come, so that when they arrive in this motherland, they find the conditions being altered, not in the way that we find us ourselves in. So it's a different kind of love. I agree.
We're going to continue with this conversation shortly. I know some of you already lined up to have your say. We'll do that after this quick break.
Power, land, loyalty, blood. In the heart of Montana, the fight for the Dutton Ranch is far from over. Betrayals cut deep, enemies close in, and every choice could be their last. Yellowstone, Season 4, where family is everything and nothing is off limits. Every Tuesday, starting September 2nd at 7 p.m, only on S3. S3, open out.
The Toffees are hunting for third victory in the early days of the league to maintain the position in the top half.
Chance for Everton, Beto, and down! 2-1! Everton are back in front!
However, the Villains are prepared to put a good fight to achieve their first win of the season.
Might get in here, Moonrise trying to block him, rocking save, and behind from Richards. Best chance of the game for Aston Villa, ball over the top from John McGinn.
This is the Premier League, Witness Everton FC and Aston Villa the Saturday 13 September at 3:30 p.m. Live on SABC3 and SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hi, my name is Kutlwana Masote, your host of Weekend Sundowner Classics every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. exclusively on SAFM. Now, this is where you get your best classical music jams on any radio platform. Join me every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between 4 and 7 p.m. Weekend Sundowner Classics.
Cathy Mohlahlana on SAFM.
All right, you're listening to the talking point. Let me go to the phone lines. Zoe, let me start off with you. You want to contribute to this conversation? Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, Zoe.
Good morning. Good morning, Cathy.
Yes, sir. You're live on the radio.
Okay. Good morning to your guest.
Good morning.
My question, Cathy, is pertinent to the issue at hand. My question, I would be happy if I could get an answer to this one. Who named what we now proudly refer to as Africa, the Africans, an African? Who named it? Because I reached the conclusion by reasoning that the namer must have been the same namer who named Antarctica, who named America. Who is the namer? Because now it means, are we now going to go back and say we now want to rename Africa itself? Because that must also be done. Because who named what we now proudly refer to as Africa? And then another one, the whole issue of a nation, we must consider that and accept that a nation is just a notion. A nation is what? A notion. That is why it continues to be challenged, deconstructed and deconstructed, borders created and deconstructed. A nation is just a notion. It does not exist as an entity in the reality scheme of things. Thank you.
Okay, Zoe, thank you for that contribution, those questions. Who named Africans? I'll give you a chance to answer shortly, Dr. Mgibisa. Aisha, good morning.
Morning, Cathy. I agree with the previous speaker. It's not nations that's important, it is people. Doctor, I'm not going to abuse your name. So you speak my language, Doctor. You're right on 98% of your points. There's just two things that I want to raise. What has South African universities done to repatriate all the research that has been done by African scholars centuries ago? The idea that you are talking about, 3/4 of the work has already been done. All we have to do is to go fetch what's ours. That's one. Two, universities, as far as I'm concerned, is unethical because they expect communities to work with them, but they end up owning the intellectual property of those communities. Same thing applies to the researchers. We refuse to be used for you to make a name for yourself. So if you want us to work with you, then the intellectual property should belong to the community.
Mm.
And the researcher that does the research must come from that specific community so that it stays that community's property.
Okay, Aisha.
Lastly, Cathy, bring the research back, the intellectual property. Oh, yeah, okay. Let
Hi,
me leave it
Aisha, bye-bye. She had written down her points. She knew exactly what she was going to say when she came on air. All right, let's take a couple of voice notes and then we'll get the doctor to respond.
Hi, Katie. I'm really proud to be a South African. Some of us are proud to be South Africans. But the problems lie on the politicians. They are not proud to be South Africans. Some of these politicians are foreigners. So how can you say you are proud to be South African if you are not South African? We are proud to be South African. They are the one they should tell us every day that let's push this thing of saying we are proud to be South Africans. Instead, they are telling us about African. We know we are Africans, but in South Africa, we are Africans in South Africa. So I think the problem lies with the politicians. They are not proud to be South Africans.
Good morning to SAFM presenter and her guest. My problem with regards to the name Azania is that it doesn't identify in our 11 South African languages. Azania is not English. Azania is not even any of our African languages. If you look at our lineages as Africans, our clan names, nowhere is Azania coming to the picture. So basically, we are going to take something that used to exist in the north of Africa, in the east even, northeast of Africa, and we're dragging it down to the southern tip and saying, nah, this is us. Is there no other names that we can think of, names such as Ningizimu, names such as Maludi, things that we can identify with, not Azania. This is Lenko from Matosana. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there with the voice notes and give Dr. Mgibisa an opportunity to respond.
I think I'll start with the last voice note. The Pan-Africanist ideal included the whole of Africa. So it doesn't bother me whether the name emanated from East Africa or North Africa. That's a moot point. If I want to move to Zoe. Zoe raised the point of renaming South Africa to Azania. That was not my angle at all. I was posing the question, what would it have meant, what it means in the post-1994 era. And I avoid post-apartheid era because a post is a misnomer because we have not dealt with the business of colonialism, of apartheid and so on. So the other point that he raised is that a state is a notion. I will argue that it's both a notion and an entity because our political lives are organized around the state as an entity. I don't disagree with him philosophizing it as a notion. I will move to Ayesha. He raised the point of why universities are not recreating any research that is already there. I think it's part of the weaknesses of the broadly decolonization struggle in universities, that we focused more on the fees must fall moment and forgot about other struggles that are linked to the broader struggle of decolonization. And it's not, I'm not in a position to answer expansively because of time, but it is linked to that failure to finish the project and focus in the moment of the fees must fall. The other thing that she raised was the issue of research being unethical. I think when I started here, I talked about institutions that are researching for communities, not researching with communities, that are designing for communities, not a designing solution with communities. And she is correct there. I won't delve much into the intellectual property because I don't know much about that area. But I think she is correct. That is why an anthropologist called Linda Smith calls research a dirty word from a minority indigenous point of view in Australia. So I'm saying I agree with her around that issue.
And the name African, who named Africans?
Absolutely, I don't know about that.
Yeah, so thanks for that. Yeah, I also had never thought about who gave Africa the name Africa. So it's something that we can look into maybe topic of conversation for another day. Dr. Mgimbisa, let me thank you so much for your time and for coming into studio today and just sharing some of your thoughts on these issues. All right, that's where we come to the end of this particular conversation. On the other side of this, we'll be bringing you our Friday wind down. I know you are ready to have less of the chitter-chatter and more of the music as we get ready to wrap the week that has been. So it's 11 o'clock now. Here are your latest news updates, followed by the Friday wind down.
Thank you, Cathy. On the top stories, 3 learners injured in another scholar transport crash in Pietermaritzburg, and Russia and Belarus start a military exercise. For SFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good morning. Another crash involving a scholar transport has left 3 learners with minor injuries in the same area where 5 learners lost their lives in yesterday's crash at Imbali Township in Pietermaritzburg. Yesterday, 5 learners aged between 11 and 15 died, and 9 others were seriously injured when the driver lost control and crashed into a daycare center. This morning, another taxi, also used as a scholar transport, lost control and crashed, injuring 3 learners. KwaZulu Private Ambulance Service spokesperson Craig Botta elaborates.
KwaZulu Private Ambulance Services responded to the scene of a motor vehicle collision involving a taxi carrying school children in the Mbali area of Pietermaritzburg at approximately 8 a.m. this morning. The incident allegedly occurred while TV crews were filming the aftermath of yesterday's collision. A taxi carrying school children to their respective schools unexpectedly lost control. Thankfully, there were no serious injuries or fatalities reported. 3 children sustained minor injuries and paramedics rendered immediate medical attention to the patients.
Meanwhile, KwaZulu-Natal Department of Transport spokesperson Dabezinhle Sibiya says they are concerned about the number of crashes involving taxis used as scholar transport. Sibiya says provincial authorities will be visiting the injured learners in hospital.
The MEC will be making his way to the scene of the accident. He is scheduled to interact with teachers as well as the community at large in the same area, Unit 18 in Bali. He will be accompanied by the MEC for Health, MEC for Education, the Mayor of Umgungundlovu District Municipality, the Mayor of Sundozi, and many other councillors. He has also indicated that we are going to have a prayer and meet with the families and proceed to visit the learners that are in hospital.
The Public Servants Association will today embark on industrial action over a long-running dispute with the Department of Military Veterans. The PSA says an unresolved demand for talks over the department's organizational structure is at the root of
the Departmental Bargaining Chamber to table this reviewed organizational structure, but in vain. And during the DPC meeting that was held in March 2023, where we deadlocked, despite commitments by the employer, they failed to table this reviewed organizational structure as expected and reported that they are not sure when the process of restructuring will be completed.
Both Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipama Gudumana have lost their bid to block the airing of Netflix documentary Beauty and the Bester. The couple, accused of a brazen escape at Mangaung prison in the Free State, launched an urgent application yesterday at the High Court in Pretoria against the streaming service company. They argued defamation and that the documentary will infringe on their right to a fair trial to resume in November. However, a delivering judgment, Judge Suleto Potrel, said there was no urgency and dismissed both applications with cost.
The court went as far as to say that prior restraint can only be granted if the prejudice is demonstrable and substantial. It is a real risk that it will occur. Speculation, as argued in this court, is not sufficient. I am therefore satisfied that this application too did not comply with Rule 612 in that it did not address substantial redress, and in fact there is substantial redress in due course. For that reason, this matter is also struck from the roll and the applicant is to carry the cost.
Russia and Belarus began with a major joint military exercise that will involve drills in both countries and in the Baltic and Barents Seas. The show of force by Russia and its ally take place 2 days after Poland shot down suspected Russian drones over its airspace. The Kremlin said that the drills, including near the Polish border, were not aimed against any other country. The Russian Defense Ministry says objectives of the drills are to improve the skills of commanders and staff, the level of cooperation and field training of regional and coalition groupings of troops. Recapping the top story, another crash involving a scholar transport has left 3 learners with minor injuries in the same area where 5 learners lost their lives in yesterday's crash at Imbali Township in Pietermaritzburg. I'm on Delambana Voice FM News Headlines at 11:30.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 450-gram Bacoma Wheat Bix for $26.99 and 50 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 750-gram Nola Mayonnaise for $38.99 and 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million rand in instant cash. Prices valid until 22 September 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Emotions are brewing and the thirst for victory is real. City lads have a great plan to display a terrific brand of football, but Copper Belt ladies believe this is their moment to triumph. This is the Hollywood Bets Believe. Do not miss out on City lads versus Copper Belt ladies, the Sunday 11 September at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sports on DTT Channel 4 and everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Be in it to win it by playing Powerball and Powerball Plus for a life-changing 124 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Friday. That's right. Play Powerball for an estimated 64 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 60 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529 hash for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The Friday Wind Down. Kick off your weekend the right way.
has got this. Remember, God has got this. Ooh, hey, oh, ooh, hey, oh. Ooh, hey, oh, ooh, hey, oh. Ooh, hey, oh, ooh, hey, oh. Ooh, hey, oh. We give you ooh, hey, oh. Ooh, hey, oh, ooh, hey, oh. Ooh, hey, oh, ooh, hey, oh. Ooh, hey, oh. We give you ooh, hey, oh. Ooh, hey, oh, ooh, hey, oh. Ooh, hey, oh. Ooh, hey, oh, ooh, hey, oh. Ooh, hey, oh. We give you ooh, hey, oh. Ooh, hey, oh, ooh, hey,
Our guest today, she's one of those people who, if success was an indicator of your fame and your notoriety, then she would be right up there with the Beyoncés of the world. But because that's not how the system works, and we should question why the system why does it not work that way? Because that's not how the system works. If you think about her name, and I say we've got Pinda on the show today, and you're like, who is Pinda? That, I assure you, is not a reflection of her existence or even the work that she has done and the way in which she has been recognized for her very unique art and contribution to the creative arts. So let me welcome onto the Friday wind down. She's now stressed because I've gone on this whole grand opening monologue, and she's like, what is going on? What is this? Pinda Mohlahlana, South African Afro jazz singer, producer, writer, actress. Pinda, good morning to you. Thank you so much for coming to studio.
Good morning to you guys. Thank you so much for having me. After that huge intro, really, I'm still... What do I say after that?
Look, you walked in here like the queen that you are. You're owning the studio like the queen that you are. Pinda, look, we're doing the build-up to the Joy of Jazz later on this month. And I think it's been such an honor to get to be able to speak to artists that sometimes we would not ordinarily have spoken to, not for any other reason outside of thinking beyond the realm of what we think is accessible or not accessible, right? So the platform has really given us an opportunity to engage with different people's managers and make interviews like this happen, which I hope is going to continue even beyond the festival.
Let's
Absolutely. African. This is from Tsotsi, the award-winning movie, right? She gets to perform for people like Oprah Winfrey. When Oprah are having their private gatherings, yeah, the reason you and I aren't there is because Pinda is there. She's performing for the stars. She gets to be just in their presence. She's produced albums that have won summer awards, been recognized by different agencies just for how important a work that they have been. And yet, is inconspicuous the right word? But
I think so.
Yeah.
And intentionally so.
I was going to say, why do you think that is? Because somebody with your kind of record by virtue of work should be among the names that people reference in this country, outside of this country. So speak to me about the journey, Pinda.
The journey. I didn't even greet your listeners. Thank you so much for the privilege of your ears for the next few minutes or so, talking about the wonderful joy of jazz. And thank you so much.
It's not a few minutes. You're here till 12 o'clock, okay?
You know. Thank you so much for spending that hour with us. And thank you for allowing me in your space. The journey. I'm a young girl from Ekebeg. And young, very young. Don't let the gray hairs fool you. Ndingumqadi mna, ndinguncwina. Ndingungubencuka. Ndizalwa yintombi yasemampondomiseni, Majola. Ndendele kwaMatlala. So hence the Phindamtya Matlala. The journey, dear Lord, I hear people say, I decided to do this at this age, and I never made any decisions about music. Music chose me, and music was consistent since I was a child. From primary school productions to church to community choirs to local bands, the most prominent of which was the Black Slaves. And I started touring with the Black Slaves all over Africa. And actually in South Africa with the Black Slaves. And when I left the Black Slaves, came to Joburg, and I was a typical Jim comes to Joburg. A lot of things were anathema to me. It took me a while. I'm still acclimatizing. There's still some elements of Johannesburg that scared the Jesus out of me. I'm sorry for the French. But I started doing clubs. Clubs introduced me to the corporate scene. The corporate scene extended my reach musically to the people that I had relations with. I recorded my first album while I was still in the clubs. And unfortunately for me, the guy that I was working with died before it just as we were releasing it. And the momentum died with him. Still some beautiful songs in there that I'm looking at revisiting, by the way. And from there, Lebu got me into The Lion King. That was another huge step. Did The Lion King for 3 years, came back into the country, and we started, me and Stephen Dyer started Mahube. We roped in Abo Sutukaze, Andile Yenan. It was an all-star kind of thing. Oliver Mtukudzi, Happy Twaudi. It was huge, massive Southern African, Abu George Piri. It was not just South African. We did, actually, we that's when I started touring the world now. And we did a lot of festivals in Europe. We toured something like almost 4 years with Steve, with Mahube. Unfortunately for us, fortunately for Bra Olive, he blew up. And a lot of people within the production had their careers now, blossoming. And it was difficult to schedule performances and trips. Steve was like, you know what, while we're waiting for Olive to finish his tour of the US, why don't we record you? I was like, yeah, okay, I've got nothing to do. I was working at the Hyatt at the time. And so after, in the morning when I finished work at 2 in the morning. I would go home, rest, get up at 10, go to studio, work the whole day from studio straight to the Hyatt. And we finished 9 songs, and we were very happy with the songs. But Steve was like, it's still not complete. There's too few songs here. The norm and the standard is 12. At least if we can push for 10, get into the double digits. Is there anything else you've got? And I'm sitting there thinking about an old song that Madlamini used to sing to me called Unotumata. And we did that just as an additional, with just to increase the numbers. And that song blew up. It blew up. Up till to date, no show I do is complete without doing it. We won Summers. We got nominations for lots of other awards nominated us. But we won we won 2 Summers. Steve got one for production, and I got one for best album. And that was the stepping stone I needed for more and more and more that I kept doing.
You know, just to maybe go back to the early years of the journey, and I don't know, but there are so many musicians who talk about the Lion King production and just what an experience it had been for them, and also the foundation in many respects that they believe it also gave them, because people go into their role, you know, sometimes they don't necessarily have careers, they haven't been singing for long, and yet it puts you onto this international platform. I mean, speak to me a little bit about that experience, having done it for 3 years, and what it is that you took out of it.
I was fortunate in that Lebu bought into me even before audition. He dragged me in kicking and screaming because I was like, I'm not a theatre person. But he loved the personality. He felt my personality speaks directly to the part he wanted me to take, which was Rafiki. I was going to be the lead. And I knew nothing about theatre. And fortunately for me, I had an amazing manager agent, Ulisa Loeb. She got me training. She got me people to train me with acting, with the difference between theatre and television acting, with diction, with all of that. She invested in me, and I will forever be grateful to her. But that all came after I got the audition. Oh, she also got me somebody to train me with audition protocols. And these were things I didn't even know existed, you know. I was like, what is this woman doing? Sindwa imali, you know. And fortunately for me, it all translated to gold when I had to deliver. Now, the actual stage, being on the actual stage, on The Lion King, the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway was discipline. Discipline, understanding the importance of precision in theatre, and understanding commitment, honoring what you commit to. Those are my 3 biggest takeaways from The Lion King, and I'll forever be grateful for them. Yeah, that's it.
It's quite strenuous, isn't it? Because you have to do back-to-back shows.
It was.
You have to be able to do exactly the same thing every night, because if I went with my friend on Monday and we decide to come again on Wednesday, I must show my friend. My friend must see what I promised they would see.
It must
because of what I experienced on Monday, right?
Thank you. And that the one thing that people don't talk about, that outfit is heavy. It's 23 kg every single night, and twice a day for 2 days. So, because we had to push in 8 shows. It heavy. And as soon as you put it on, Pinda must go. Pinda must go. What they want is the person they are paying you to be. You know, it was difficult to hype yourself up to get to the point where you are this frivolous, funny, but wise monkey, you know?
I think she just tuned back into Rafiki mode.
The thing is, can you imagine? Where does one meet the other? frivolous, flighty, jumpy, all over the place. But why?
Do you still remember some lines from The Lion King?
It is time for you to take your kingdom. And I did something at the beginning.
That is brilliant. I would have hired you on the spot.
At the beginning, when the show starts, I open the show. Okay, Rafiki opens the show. And they wanted something that would get people's attention, It started. This is us. And I felt Molweni was too lame. And I created a line which was, even Nangokun, I remember it, but it had no meaning. I was just calling them with clicks.
What was the line?
And it made no sense.
It doesn't mean anything outside of we have started.
And they were like, that's the line you must use every night. I'm like, I got you.
Oh man, you are such a storyteller as well. I could listen to you all day. The entire studio here is like everybody's enthralled and enchanted. So
I'll be even more so at the Joy of Jazz.
Of course. We expect nothing less, by the way. We expect nothing less. As you can see, she's one of those triple threat artists, right? Can do it all. Pinda is our Friday wind down guest for today. We'll be bringing you more of her music and also what you can expect coming up at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz, but that will be a little bbit later on in the hour. For those of you that want to get in touch, you're more than welcome to the studio line 086 000 2032.
University of Fort Hare ladies want to ensure they play attractive football for 90 minutes to stop Banyanaba's style. But the superpower of women's football in Mzansi are not shaken. This is the Hollywood Best Super League. Catch University of Fort Hare ladies versus Mamelodi Sundowns the Sunday 14 September at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Tani Esther, or should I say the Tupperware Tani? How's business going?
Business is booming. I've been operating out of the boot of my car for 10 years, but shame, it couldn't keep up with my growing empire.
Okay, so you sold it to We Buy Cars?
Yes, quick. Sold my old one, bought a bigger one. I even sold some of my Tupperware to the friendly guy who picked up my car.
Stick to what you know best, eh, Tani?
Excuse me?
Never mind. We Buy Cars. Geared for your business, geared for you.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Give us like a Rafiki one-liner.
Lalela, Pulapul, Simba, Kolasel. Tell me, who are you? No, here comes a person who says, who am I? I know who I am. Who are you?
Well, the storyteller is telling story, John Carney.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
On the news headlines, the president of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, says there's a need for real radical solutions to deal with issues affecting local government in the country. Another crash involving Escola Transport has left 3 learners with minor injuries in the same area, where 5 learners lost their lives in yesterday's crash at Imbali Township in Pietermaritzburg. And Russia and Belarus began with a major joint military exercise that will involve drills in both countries and in the Baltic and Barents Seas. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM's award-winning drama department presents to you the radio drama series Skyline.
Press to cockpit, medical emergency now.
Cabin crew to your stations.
Where the skies promise adventure, but behind the cabin doors, untold secrets are found.
He's signing off on cheap parts they installed like it's nothing.
Catch the radio drama series every Saturday at 9 p.m. on SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay.
Some songs take you back instantly to your first love, a road trip, or just simpler times. The soundtrack of your life with me, Ernest Pillay, is where timeless hits and forgotten favorites come together to tell your story. It's not just music, it's memories, moments, and the meaning behind this jam.
Don't you change someone by night.
Rediscover the songs that shaped your journey. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 p.m., only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Standing on his own. Dingalamba tswana lingala. Dingalamba tswana lingala.
You are listening to SAFM Radio this Heritage Month. The Friday Wind Down. Kick off your weekend the right way.
Dinepukwa
Hello, Sis Cathy. This is Nan Labana. Yo, what you are hosting there? She's a queen, a legend. I'm a truck driver myself. I do also ride some poems. I'm smiling right now. Wow. That is great. Keep it up, my sister. You are a queen.
Hi, Cathy, and to your guest, Pindi. Yeah, we love The Lion King. But Cathy, you guys just played the clip from Ashraf's show with his interview with John Carney, who also played Rafiki, and he gave a line as Rafiki. Now, did you guys intentionally do that, or was that accidental?
I can assure you it was not intentional. We're actually talking about it with a TD as it went live. Our promos, our ads are pre-scheduled by the sales team. So we even said that, oh, it's Lion King week at SAFM this week. So yeah, I hope that clarifies. But of course, lots of South Africans have actually gotten involved, I guess, in the broader Lion King enterprise in different ways. So I don't think it takes anything away from each of them. Our Friday wind down guest is Pinda, and she is telling us more about her journey, her music. She's going to be donning one of the stages at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. So you've described, just this experience of feeling like as you were living your life, you ran into music, or music ran into you.
Into me.
But at some point you have to decide whether you're going to go with the flow or if you're going to try something different. What made you stay?
Nothing made me stay. Nothing gave me an opportunity to choose. Or I was home. There was nothing else. Like I've never competed with myself. I've never tried to find something other than I was home. This was where I belonged. That's it. I've never questioned myself. If I wasn't a singer, no. No.
The thought has never crossed your mind. Wow.
No. It's always been music.
How do you make the decision around putting yourself out there and mainstreaming in the way that we know it, we understand it, and just pursuing what you know is your gift and talent in a way that makes sense to you? And I'm asking that because, of course, you have been part again of all of these big, not only productions, but have really worked with people that are considered the greats. And when we started, and I said, you should know her name as much as you know Beyonce's name. And you said, no, it's intentional. So that's what I want you to unpack for us.
The thing is, as a human being, my mom taught me that you need to know how far you can go. So that if you want to go further, know that there is a need for a bit more push. So it limits your ceilings should be recognized by you. Not to say you must stay beneath them, but know them so that you know what you have to crack. I have lacked one thing throughout. I'm not overly ambitious. And that's it's a very necessary trait. But I'm talking about me, my makeup. Music has never been a job for me. As I said, when you said, when did I make the decision? I've never been at that point where I'm deciding. It's always been home. Now, because I didn't have that drive, I had another reason for being here. I loved audiences. Why am I saying vd? Why the past tense? Because I still do. I love being in front of an audience. And recording for me was a means to an end. I wasn't doing it to sell 200,000 copies, 1,000,000 copies and be famous. I was doing it so that I can have material to put in front when I have to have my audience. That's always been my reason for recording. Now, that changes the priorities, because it when it stops being about sales and becomes about, will it give me, how much of a conversation will it open for me and my audience? The material that I do ends up being different to somebody who wants consistent airplay, this many, this many sales.
Basically, if you're chasing targets.
Yes. I have a target, but it's different. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Absolutely. And do you think part of that stemmed from where you began in the industry as a young person, touring South Africa with the band, having the opportunity to then also tour the world? That live audience is what really feeds your soul.
You've got it. That's my cocaine. That's.
In case she's not allowed to say that on the radio, for purposes of the record, it must show that I told her.
No.
Don't say that.
That's my drug. I've never been those people who need motivation. People will take alcohol, will take isdakamizwa to get to a point where I'm able to face these people. For me, the high was in, I'm gonna see people. And it makes me very nervous sometimes because I'm scared of non-delivery. I'm scared of mistakes. I'm scared of not being able to connect. That's very scary for me. But the prospect of being in front of people,
which is a bit of a juxtaposition, because you describe yourself as somebody who's shy.
I am.
I am. Namanga. Unamanga. Tell the truth.
I wish my friends.
Our listeners only like truthful people. They don't like people.
Maga and me are not friends. I really am scared of people. The best way for me to relax is to be in my performer role. As soon as you meet me personally outside of my work, different person.
So you've also got that multiple personality thing going on. Was Sasha fierce?
I think all musicians, it's just that we recognize it at different levels. Ne?
So what did you have to do to overcome? Or you're aware of the fact that the personality, who you are when you're engaging with people at a personal level, is different to who you are at stage, but you didn't really have to grapple with the idea of being shy and going out into the stage, or onto the stage rather.
Both apply, but yeah, my circle is very limited. I have friendships that span decades. I don't make friends easy. I don't meet people and go. No, the people that I live with are people I can ndinomlando nabo. But I do make friends. It's just a bit of a dig, and the people that know me know the things that I'm able to swim in, the waters that I'm comfortable in. And also the very same thing, the people that know me know the difference between the two people. you know.
And they're able to have an appreciation for that. So you've been preparing for the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival. Your music incorporates, I think, a variety of things. You know, one can hear a strong influence of gospel in it. Does that come from your history? Where does that come from? And then there's Afro-pop. I always get confused by Afro-pop. I'm like, what is Afro-pop genre? Just unpack it for me. Help me to understand. But conversation for another day. And then there's the blues element of it too. So where do you draw all of these influences from?
I think I said earlier, ndakhuliswa intombi yasemazizini uMadlamini. And Madlamini taught me the skill of writing. At the time, she was not aware she was teaching me something. Neither was I aware as the student that I was picking up something. But the way I write is influenced by how she taught us to tell Intsomi. Most of my songs, there's always a storyline. There's different characters that you can separate. There's different interactions. There's a theme within the song. And just the song that we listened to just now, Ngabuya Qala, although I hate telling people what the songs mean, I rather appreciate it more when they tell me what they get from it. But it's a song of a woman who, you know, in the olden days, Obaba would leave their wives and go to the mines to go work. Most of the time, there would be Ogcinums. You know what that is?
Maybe if you translate it for me.
Child, to what? To which language?
Sepedi. Because you are a bride there in of the Matalas. Oh, yes,
what is that?
yes. Yeah. Yes.
You've got it.
Yes.
Now, Ogcinumzi sometimes would get attached and not want to back off when the real Mungwamutse.
Oh, I see.
Gets here.
I see. Okay.
So the song is about the conversation between the Qinumzi and
so a Qinumzi is basically like a side chick. In today's modern terms, I'm using what the 2000s would say because I've got a young 2000 person in studio. that's yeah.
So the lady is getting a bit annoyed with him that why do I have to keep telling you these things and teaching you this?
Mm-hmm.
Is this your first time doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you know the rules? You know, that's how I write. What was the question?
Do you think that how you write, because you're a storyteller through and through,
definitely,
is that part of the? So if you had it your way, would you just be on stage? And where does theatre fit into the musical stage, or is it just a long marriage that expresses and manifests itself in different ways?
It is a long road that keeps sprouting different leaves. And as I'm speaking to you now, I'm writing a book, coffee table book, about my journey with in widowhood storytelling. I developed a what do you call it? Something that you do.
A habit?
A habit. There you go, the big English. I developed a habit of writing letters to my husband after he died because I didn't have anybody to talk to. And I didn't want my kids to see the depth of the grief that grasped me. So instead, I would lock myself in my room and take my notebook and write letters to him. So I've compiled these letters that talk about milestones, the things that the kids were doing, a funny thing that one of them did today, a problem that I got at work, the reason why I had to stop and close the business, and all of those things. And I've put those letters together. And we're going to release a book. That's one side. I've developed some of my songs, about quite a few, into one, a movie. The other one is docuseries. That's another part of the writing that I didn't know was a skill that would feed my children later. And the music also is there. So yeah, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Do you want to talk about your husband a little bit?
I think I have. The only thing I want to say about him is that he was my biggest fan and my biggest support system. And a lot of things fell apart when he left us. But I'm grateful for the things that he left for us.
Geesh, I'm so sorry that you lost him along the way. And thank you for sharing that, by the way. I'm sure it'll bring healing to so many others who are walking this journey.
Thank you.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
This summer, the continent unites for the biggest football showdown in Africa. The Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2025 is coming to your screens, live and available on SABC TV channels, SABC Sport, SABC Plus, and across your favorite SABC radio stations. Catch all 52 thrilling matches, stand behind Bafana Bafana, and experience every goal, every cheer, and every victory from 21 December 2025 to 18 January 2026. SABC Sport brings you all the AFCON 2025 action, live and free, because it's game on everywhere.
For the love of the game.
Do you know what's hiding behind the colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by the 30th of September.
Be in it to win it by playing Powerball and Powerball Plus for a life-changing 124 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Friday. That's right. Play Powerball for an estimated 64 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 60 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529 hash for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The Friday Wind Down. Kick off your weekend the right way.
Oh man, where has the time gone? I can't believe that our hour is almost up, and today we've really been enthralled by the life and times and the journey of Pinda Mkya Matlala, but she goes by the name Pinda for her artistry and the work that she does. An all-rounder is what they would say. Her agent probably still describes her today as she's an all-rounder. She can do all of that, Jim. Just sign her up. Let me go to Indwe. Budinko Nkonki, good morning.
Morning, Cathy. How are you?
Yes, I'm doing well. Go for it.
Cathy, I wanted to make a joke to her, but after hearing that her husband passed away, I'm sorry, I won't do it now in relation to her story. But Cathy, my main reason to call here, I want to know from Unajika Umamkat. Molo Mamkat, kunjani?
Ewe ke siyaphila njani?
Ndivukile nam. I wanted to know from her if maybe at some point she might consider having a song with the likes of Zolani Mkiva and that lady who's a poet, lady, I just forget, Lebo Mutiba or something. I think her beat and poetry go hand in glove. Will she consider maybe perhaps one day to do that, including that voice of Nzwakenbud? I don't know if maybe she has that interest. But
are you talking about Lebo Mashile Butinkonki?
That's correct, Mama.
I see. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I sort of see. I sort of see what you're saying. I see it.
It's a nice suggestion.
You must also close
it.
with a song. You must close with the song. No too much. I love that song. I like that song. No more too much.
Mutinkonki, thank you so much for the call. Pinda, you're looking at the time. I can we both see how much is left of
there
the time.
There is no time.
Yeah. So let's talk about the joy of jazz.
The joy of jazz. God, I've been around the sun, hey, with them. I think this is going to be my 4th time on that stage, but it's my first time as Pinda. I was with Mahube. I was with the big orchestra. I say Port Elizabeth, Nelson Mandela Bay, a big orchestra. I was a guest just forgotten. Anyway, so now this is my first time as Pinda. By the way, the one that I did with Mahube about 15 or so years ago, somebody just sent me a clip of that show. And I was looking at myself and I'm like, I used to look cute.
You still look cute. Who are you kidding? You still look cute.
Thank you, darling. And I was looking at myself and thinking, I want my body back.
I was going to say, the only thing that you're looking at is the waistline. Trust me, we all feel that way.
And the voice, the range, different, hey? The tops that I used to have, I'm like, what? Okay. Different Pinda coming on as myself now. Scary as hell, but I'm embracing it. I'm loving the platforms that it's put me in. I've met so many amazing people, and I've learned from the Joy of Jazz team. I've learned a lot, especially with administrating and ensuring visibility. You know, the type of musicians that are, hey, have you seen that lineup, how bad it is?
I have seen the lineup, but you and we also have a lineup here at SAFM. We are now in other people's lineup types.
Let us please see you 26, 27, 28 of September. Be there with your mother, your father, your daughter, your son, your dog, and your cat. Pinda signing out.
That's how we leave it on the talking point for today's show. Back with you again Monday between 9 and midday. It's always a pleasure sending you all my love. Pinda, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Just after 12 on Friday, the 12th of September 2025. A very warm welcome to Update at Noon here on SAFM. Leading the conversation, I'm Sakina Kamwendo. Coming up in the next hour.
Remember, whoever's participating in the documentary, whatever they're saying, our client still has the right to institute whatever applications for damages or actions for damages that he may see fit at the time.
Lawyers representing Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipama Kudumana cry foul over the dismissal of their application to halt Netflix from airing a 3-part documentary series of the pair. And
One life is more than enough. We can't afford to have young lives being lost in the manner in which it is happening.
Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane faces the Human Rights Commission over malnutrition in the province. And guess who's back? Shame, man.
What's this? Who's writing this stuff here?
Don't you worry. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I know you're not 100%.
No, I'm fine. I'll be fine.
You'll be fine eventually.
Because I've been preparing. See, busy weekend. I'm going to be up early tomorrow. Just after midnight, because World Athletics champs. Then there's Australia against Argentina, South Africa against the Springboks. The Proteas are playing tonight as well. There's the women's rugby later on in the afternoon. Sure.
You know how that messed me up last weekend?
Yeah?
Sure.
Well, be prepared, girl.
I got here Monday and it was a mess.
I'm going to tell you all about it later.
All right. John Kerricker, sports news later on in the show. In the meantime, let us know what's on your mind. You can send us your messages on 41391. That's our SMS line number. Charge 150 per SMS. You can write to us via X at SABC News_radio, or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 0826923909. Well, these and more stories coming up on this Friday edition of Update at Noon. First, though, the latest news with Mohlahlana.
Thank you, Sekin. On the top stories, challenges facing local government, top ANC NEC agenda, and Burkina Faso scraps visa fees for African travellers. For SAFM News, I'm Mohlahlana, and a very good day. The president of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, says there's a need for real radical solutions to deal with issues affecting local government in the country. Ramaphosa was speaking at an ANC golf event at Sun City in the northwest. He says his party's NEC meeting scheduled for this weekend will address challenges such as what happened in the Lichtenburg-based Ditsobotla local municipality, where councillors ran parallel councils with two municipal managers. Following a number of interventions by the provincial government, Ditsobotla has now been placed under administration of the National Department of Cooperative Governance. Ramaphosa says such incidents cannot be allowed.
And that is just completely unacceptable, because the inability for our leaders in the province at the local level to straighten out the operations of local government is actually resulting in bad services being delivered to our people. And our people deserve much more than what we are giving them right now through the dysfunctionality at local government level. So we are focusing on that at national government level as well as provincial government levels.
Ramaphosa says the ball is now in the court of different political parties.
As we're going to the elections next year, we'd like all political parties to deploy people as their candidates who are capable, who've got the competence to run local government properly. And many political parties will admit that we have not yet reached that level.
The Democratic Alliance in Gauteng is again calling for criminal charges to be laid against those implicated in fraud and corruption at the Tembisa Hospital. This after the National Prosecuting Authority seized assets worth millions from Hangwani Maumela and Rudolph Mazibuko, who were allegedly involved in the irregular awarding of tenders at the hospital. The two